Hello and welcome to HW News. Of all the ministries in Modi cabinet, Finance Ministry probably has remained the most controversial. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman herself has come under fire from opposition over several issues. Then be it government's economic stimulus package, which the opposition claims hasn't resulted in anything substantial, or be it the centre's tussle with the states over GST compensation. Now, Finance Minister Sitharaman braved the critics after her comments on Act of God. Amid all of this, a blog post from the former Finance Secretary Subhash Chandra Garg has made some sensational claims. In fact, exactly a year ago, when he quit, there were a lot of speculations around the reasons. But it is for the first time that he has spoken about it. A year ago, he took voluntary retirement from the IAS. Before that, he was transferred from the Finance Ministry to Power Ministry. Now, Garg, who says he wanted to work in the Finance Department given his interest and the credentials, found it best to quit. After that, for a year, he could not take any commercial employment as the government rules don't allow it. He says in his blog post that this 1 year period was a period of transition out of the government employment. The new phase of public policy service as a private citizen begins now. Well, the blog post is quite long and also details his personal endeavors, but we will stick to his tenure in the Finance Ministry. He claimed that before the budget on 2019-2020, the government was well aware that the economy had started to slow down and that there were several alarming trends such as growth falling down, capital investment tumbling, and issues with Make in India, the ambitious pet project of PM Modi. Now I am going to read out that portion of his blog post in this video. For the entire blog, I will also give you a link in the description box below. So first of all, he talks about these issues under the question of why did he take voluntary retirement. He says, there were two principal reasons. First, I sensed the Indian economic policy was getting distracted from what was required to attain her stated goal of building a $10 trillion economy by early 2030s. Let me explain a bit more. Not long before my transfer from the Ministry of Finance in July 2019, the government had presented the interim budget 2019-20 in February 2019. In the interim budget, the government boldly declared India's ambition of building a $10 trillion economy. I quote from the budget speech which I had the privilege to draft. The interim budget 2019-20 also articulated government's 10-dimensional vision for next decade. The vision envisaged building physical as well as social infrastructure for a $10 trillion economy, creating a digital India reaching every sector of the economy, every corner of the country and impacting the life of all Indians, making India a pollution-free nation with green Mother Earth and blue skies, an India with clean rivers, with safe drinking water to all Indians, sustaining and nourishing life, making India a global manufacturing hub, and an India self-sufficient in food, exporting to the world to meet their food needs and producing food in the most organic way. These were the prominent elements of India's Vision 2030. This was the clearest articulation of the aspirational India and to transform India to a high-income society from a lower middle-income country. India has done reasonably well since the turn of millennium. India's GDP was a little over $600 billion in 2003. It had grown to over $2.7 trillion by 2018. India's GDP, despite setbacks of years following the global financial crisis of 2008 and 9, had more than quadrupled in 15 years. To reach to $10 trillion GDP from the 2018 base of $2.7 trillion by 2033, that is over a period of 13 years, required India to multiply her 2018 GDP by about 3.7 times. This certainly was an ambitious goal, but eminently achievable given our potential and past performance. I must mention that at the time of presentation of the interim budget 2019-20, the government was aware of the fact that the Indian economy had started slowing down. India's growth in second half of 2018-19 was only around 6%. Capital investment was falling. The financial system, most significantly the public sector banks, which still have the dominant share of credit, were in a lot of bother. IL&FS collapse had shaken the non-banks and credit system. Turnover and profitability of several public sector entities, heavy engineering and power equipment manufacturers, telecom and several other services enterprises, etc. had gone down, with a number of these entities slipping into red. Government's revenue growth had become muted. The revenue targets for 2018-19 and 2019-20 were in the danger of being missed by a wide margin. Make in India program was moving at a snail's pace, with competitiveness of Indian manufacturing not improving much. India was further losing its low share in global exports. The dynamism in Indian economy was imparted by the economic reforms of 1990s, which generated an average growth of over 7% for more than 25 years. However, it was quite evident that these economic reforms had run its course by 2010s. Only a new economic and financial sector policy regime can reverse the decline or stagnation and put India on a high growth trajectory once again. Despite the worrying growth and investment trends, the government had a lot of confidence in its ability to undertake bold reforms. The government had credibly implemented ambitious public welfare programs like electricity for all, LPG gas connection to every poor household, health insurance for more than 40% of Indian household, toilets for all under Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and many more. The general elections were due very soon after the interim budget was presented, and the government was quite confident of coming back and undertaking requisite economic reforms in the second tenure. India needed a big economic policy reset, more ambitious and comprehensive in its scope than the 1990s reforms, and the government looked ready to bite the bullet after the elections. India, after independence, built her economic system under the policy rubric of socialist pattern of society, where the government became the policy maker, the regulator and the producer of most capital goods and major industrial goods of public consumption. This was India's economic policy 1.0. The reforms initiated in 1990s formed India's economic policy 2.0, and the reforms changed the economic system into a private sector-led real and financial economy, though the public sector retained substantial presence, most notably in the financial space. The system operating after Economic Policy 2.0 took root was the real mixed economy model. Inefficiency, dominant position and lack of real enterprise made the public sector turn out poor performance year after year and increasingly become sick and inefficient user of capital. India's underperformance and slowdown since 2010 was largely due to inadequacies of the Economic Policy 2.0. A new vision, a new set of economic policy and bold reforms were needed to put India on higher growth path of 8 to 10% annual growth. It was time to work on India's economic policy 3.0. I did a lot of conceptual work during March or May 2019 for such a policy framework. Part of that work was in the 100 policy reform agenda, which I made public later on 7th of November. The situation after 2019 elections unfortunately took a turn for worse. The government did talk about making India a $5 trillion economy by 2024 and 2025 after the elections and winning a great majority. But the reform agenda and the investment plan for attaining the goal of $10 trillion economy articulated in the interim budget, however, got sidetracked and was virtually forgotten. The government was turning populist as well. As part of the 100 days program, a number of announcements were made aimed to please specific constituencies. Reform agenda was acquiring tinge of being more short-term and tinkering type. I had expected the government to take the requisite bold reforms in the first 6 months. However, this did not seem to be the case. While the real economic reform agenda seemed like getting relegated to a sideshow, the non-economic priorities started assuming primary space. The main budget 2019-20 presented on 5th of July was a recital of great work done in the previous 5 years. It did not, however, have a single major economic reform. Some proposals for reforming sectoral foreign direct investment limits, issuing foreign currency sovereign bonds, selling share below the 51% limit in case of public sector, which I could push through, were not good enough to alter the course of economic system materially. I was getting quite disappointed. I sensed that the opportunity to work on a big and bold economic reform agenda was slipping away. If there was no good opportunity to work on reform and building of $10 trillion economy, there was no great fun in working in the government. This was the first major reason of my contemplating to leave the government. Now after this, SC Garg lists the second reason why he left his job at the finance department. Second reason he says that quite frankly was that he did not share a good and productive working relationship with the new finance minister, and he further says, I did not want to work anywhere outside the Ministry of Finance. Finance Minister, beside being responsible for the management of government finances, is the principal architect and driver of country's economic policy agenda. Deep knowledge and understanding of the economy, the financial system and the public finances paves the way of the finance minister in discharging this role effectively. He further praises Arun Jaitley and says that Arun Jaitley, with whom he has spent most of his time in the Ministry of Finances, was a mastermind with an uncanny ability to sift through massive amounts of information and government files to discover the pith and substance of the public policy issue involved. He also had right temperament and ability to forge consensus by devising the most acceptable solutions and the engendering wider acceptance for the same. Arun Jaitley was able to get solutions for most of the divisive and intractable solutions accepted by all. The GST reforms are a case in point. He further says that Jaitley focused on broader policy issues and left the running of the departments and implementation of policies to the secretaries. He genuinely encouraged contribution on major policy issues to come from the secretaries, and he also made that secretaries should present the policy proposal to the Prime Minister's office as well as to the media and the public. He said that he was very magnanimous and broad-minded person, and it was his best time personally and professionally to work with Arun Jaitley. Now he comes to Nirmala Sitharaman's tenure as a finance minister. He says, the new incumbent after the elections, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman, has a very different personality, knowledge endowment, skill set and approach for economic policy issues and also for the officers working with her. It became quite apparent very early that working with her was going to be quite difficult and it might not be conducive to undertaking necessary reforms for the attainment of the objective of building $10 trillion economy in India. He says, for reasons not very clearly known to him, came with some kind of preconceived notions about him. She did not seem to have confidence in him. She was not quite comfortable working with him as well. That is what he says in the blog post. He says, serious difference also developed on some key issues like economic capital framework of RBI, package for dealing with the problems of non-banks, resolution of non-banks, partial credit guarantee scheme, capitalization of non-banks like IIFCL and other financial entities and the like. Very soon, not only had our personal relationship soured, but also the official working relationship became quite unproductive. This is what he alleges in the blog post. He further says, Mrs. Sitharaman asked for and insisted on my transfer from the Ministry of Finance in June 2019 itself, within 1 month of her taking over as Finance Minister. He further says Ministry of Finance, especially the Department of Economic Affairs which he was heading, is the place where an officer gets the widest possible view of the Indian economy and participates in various ways in the decision making relating to the policy framework for entire economic part of the government. He says he did not want to work in the government outside the Ministry of Finance. So the budget was due to be presented on 5th of July within 35 days of her taking over as the Finance Minister. And despite quite a few episodes of acrimony which had made the working environment unpleasant for him, he decided that he would do everything possible to see that the budget was not harmed and it was delivered on time. He says, nonetheless, he had made up his mind in the month of June 2019, which was right after Modi government taking charge of the government for the second time, and before the budget was presented, that he would take voluntary retirement from the service to be able to work on the wider economic reform agenda outside the government. He says he drafted his month's notice for voluntary retirement sometime in the 4th week of June after going through the rules relating to voluntary retirement and decided to seek it from 31st of October 2019. Well, so this was the part which was related to Finance Ministry from the entire blog post that was written by S.C. Garg. It is rather unusual for the retired bureaucrats to speak out against the government departments and the ministers they have worked under. It is, however, for sure that a blog post from Mr. Garg is likely to have created a stir in the finance department. Do let us know what you think in the comment box below. For more news and updates, you can log on to www.hwnews.in. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.